week in racing. It's time to recap it. And who better to do it than Michael and Magic? Two bros/pros who cover the highs and lows of racing around the globe on every one of their shows. Real fans look forward to these guys and their last thoughts, cause they know they're not talking out of their royal ascot. What they say makes sense. So ladies and gents, sit back and relax as Blinkers Off presents The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
And this is the Magic Mike Show, episode 191. Mr. Samich, how are you today?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good up here in Saratoga for one more week. It's nice being so close to track, although we'll be out golfing all next weekend. So you have a little fill-in action for Mike for Travers Week, but we'll still have picks up on the site. Excited for it, man. It would be almost too weird to be in Saratoga and have the Travers going and not be at the track. So not completely upset that we're leaving a little bit. We're going to go play some golf.
Yeah, get out of town. You might as well. It's like if you were in Louisville and you couldn't go to the Derby, and you're like, well, if nobody's allowed to go, what the hell's the point of me being here right now?
Well, it's maddening, man. Like even on Saturday, it was we had the whole family over. We had a couple aunts and uncles, and we had me and the three uncles down in the basement. We're like, okay, let's put some plays together. And to be so close to the track and not be there on Whitney Day was kind of crazy, especially when the racing dudes are presenting a race. It's like it would have been so cool to be there on Whitney Day for that everything to go down, and it just didn't work out. But the nice part about horse racing, you pretty much bet it anywhere. We found that out over the last couple months, so we'll be able to play golf and play the ponies a little bit over the weekend. Yeah,
it's nice that you're being able to get out and get away from things. We're still stuck in Southern California, which is fine. There's worse places to be stuck, I guess. I
see that sunshine.
Yeah, I got sunshine, got plenty of warm weather. On Sunday, we actually had a close friend of ours come over who's been similarly quarantining and never going out in public and doing all the same safe practices we are. So we felt comfortable having her over. And she has one of those, remember those Super Nintendo boxes that they came out with a few years ago where all the games were preloaded? So she has it. She got it for Christmas like 2 years ago when there was that huge run on them and nobody could find them. And so she brought it over. She never played it before. And so while I was doing recaps and stuff, she and Mrs. Magic are right behind those double doors here. If you're watching live on Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, they were back there playing it on the big screen. And I could see in the reflection what they were doing. And I'm like trying to coach them on how to play, Super Mario Kart or Super Mario World, which is that's my all-time favorite Mario game of any kind. Mario 64 is a close second, but Super Mario World, with first one with Yoshi. It was just so difficult to sit here and watch them two people who've never played that game before try and figure it out. And I'm sitting there, and as soon as I was done, I jumped in. It was like muscle memory, man. I'm like, and then I beat like 8 levels in like 10 minutes. And then I was like, I'm sorry, I kind of stole this from you. Here you go.
Here you go. Yeah, man. I remember when Nintendo came out, like with the Super SNES, and that specific Mario World was amazing. I did like Mario 64 a little bit more personally, just because of all like the little gimmicks in there and the things that you had to do and the triple jumps, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, man, I that Mario Kart is the one that always gets me. The battle on those Mario Karts, that was so much fun to play. I still play those with the nieces and the nephews now. So I'm shocked that it didn't come out of the packaging for 2 years. I am happy to hear about the game choices because there are some bad games on there too. So I'm happy to hear they went right to the classics.
There's a Super Mario RPG game that was on. I was like, I don't know what the hell this thing is, but honestly, they're right now they're discounted. I think they're like $89 now from what they were when you couldn't find them anywhere. It's almost worth $89 just so I can play Super Mario World and see how quickly I can just sweep through everything and get all the stars. And I love it.
If we end up at the Derby and we have a racing dude's house, we might need to just to have the company buy one of those for the post race entertainment. I would imagine if we got an N64, the amount of shit talking that would happen between Mario Kart and Bond would be unbelievable. It would also be a lot of fun. So maybe we should make that happen as well.
Mario Kart 64, great at. But I was never been good at GoldenEye. Never was good at GoldenEye. So I'll tap out on that one.
We'll go head to head in the Mario Kart side. I'm sure GoldenEye would be a mess. It used to be good. I probably am not good anymore.
All right, well, we're going to be talking a lot of stuff today. So if you're watching live on Facebook, Periscope, YouTube, thanks for joining us. Let us know if you have any questions or things. We'll try and cover them as we hit a bunch of topics from Saratoga and Del Mar. Before we get into it, Mike, what's the best thing you saw this weekend?
Well, up here for the golf tournament, I'm kind of hoping Sean is watching live right now because he's going to get a good chuckle out of this. And brought the golf clubs up here, and they were in the garage. And I laid them down. Someone set them up. Then they fell over, and then someone ran over my driver, so it got snapped into two.
No.
So, yeah. So I get back, and I've had the driver for 6 years, and I'm like really used to it, and got pretty good at hitting it. It's literally snapped in half. So you can't find a custom driver inside a week. When I have this tournament this weekend, so I'm like, okay, I got to find my driver. So I go to this really good golf shop off Route 8 here, pick up a driver. I bought a Ping 410. Super happy with it. So the best thing I saw is I played a practice round and I was freaking crushing the ball, man. I was killing it. I can't putt. I have no short game, but I can hit the shit out of the ball. So I pulled it out of the bag. It was like the 8th hole, 315-yard par 4. I drove it 15 yards past the green. So I'm officially happy with my driver now. So we're good to go. Yeah, I can hit the ball really far. Wow. We're good to go. Pretty excited about the new driver. Hopefully it stays straight for 3 days. But the best thing I saw was my new driver actually working, because I was really concerned that it was just going to be a mess with this thing, because it's a different club. Right. So anyway, very happy with the new driver. Ping 410, highly recommend it. You can hit the what out of the ball.
You're the kind of guy that I love to play like scrambles with. Scrambles is usually my favorite thing to do, because it's usually 2 versus 2 or something like that. I golf because I like to smoke cigars and drink beer, and if I have to smack a little white ball around, fine.
Great excuse to do it.
The one thing I can't do that I've never been able to do is drive. I've got great mid game, great short game. My putting is, once I get, I need about 10 minutes to warm up, but once I get that, I'm fine. But just get me off the tee, because there's times, honestly, I can pick the ball up and throw it farther than I can smack it. And I hate that. And I've never figured out how to fix that. But, you give me a 3-iron or not a 3-iron, like an 8-iron or something, you need me to flop it up, man. I got you.
See, we would be a good team then. I'm one of the early draft picks for a scramble. But like, if you want, I bogeyed that hole, by the way, that I was 15 yards off the green, right? Because I chip, 3-putt, bogey, right? So the driver part is very good at. But I'm a very good scramble player, because I can hit the crap out of the ball, and I usually hit it pretty straight. And then I'm the guy who gets it like 100 yards to the hole, and then it takes me 2 more to get onto the green. So just add our games together, and we might be a good golfer.
Perfect. All right. Well, next time there's a tournament in Vegas, we'll meet up there and we'll go play. Best thing that I saw, Mike, we got the newest member of the Racing Dudes team. Joined the world on Friday. If you're watching live, you're looking at the newest member. That is Oliver Spector. Saratoga Slim Jr. Came into the world on Friday, and mom and dad and everybody doing okay. Slim's older daughter Ella got to meet him yesterday. I think yesterday or today, I can't remember. This morning. So, and she's already excited to have a little brother to teach how to play. She doesn't realize it's going to take a little bit of time, but man, that is the coolest thing I've seen in a long time. So congrats to Slim and Mama Slim and everybody involved.
Yeah, it's amazing news, man. It's with everything going on too. It's crazy to go through this, and for them to be able to have that baby home happy and healthy is the best news you could possibly get. And so, welcome addition to the Saratoga Slim family. And man, I already got that look like he's trying to squint at that photo finish, see if the horse got there or not.
Yeah, Slim was a good sport. He said that he was already picking code of honor, and Slim's like, listen, man, he's got a lot to learn about pace analysis. Who better to teach someone pace analysis and pace projection and Saratoga Slim, the award-winning writer, about that sort of subject himself.
There you go, man. You've got to start Oliver early. I was 2 months when I went to the track for the first time. Start him young, get him going.
Listen, so he's born Friday. The Whitney was Saturday. If it wasn't COVID times and it was a normal Saratoga, it would have been a real battle between him and his wife about Slim taking day-old Oliver to the Whitney. Because if he could have, he would have. He
would have been there closing day for sure. By the end of the month, he's definitely going to end up at that racetrack if they were able to bring him to it.
So congratulations to the Spectors. On today's show, like I said, we're going to be looking at all the races from Saratoga and Del Mar. We've got a lot to talk about, Mike. Let's get into it. Riders up. And switch. All right, Mike, the first thing we're going to talk about, the Breeders' Cup Classic got a big shakeup potentially in the rankings, because we had the Grade 1 $750,000 Whitney Stakes Breeders' Cup winning urn for the Classic itself. And it really seemed like, Tom Zaytat's coming in hot. He hasn't done a thing wrong all year. He's the even money favorite. And then he does about the worst thing possible he could in a short 5-horse field. He stumbled right out of the gate, and it was, oh, God, my heart broke right there, because I had Tom Zaytat singled. I'm sure everybody had Tom Zaytat singled somewhere or another on their tickets. And Probable gets the job done. I've got to hand it to him, Probable. He won the Gold Cup against a suspect field. a much better field. Yes, Tom stumbled here, but it was a much better field in the Whitney that he beat. Mile and 1/8 shorter distance, but he gets the job done. You can't knock him at this point, right? He's going to the Breeders' Cup Classic.
Yeah, he's going, and he deserves to be in that starting gate. I will not. I'm so. I don't think we learned much from this race. I think that's one of the big keys. I think that the stumble from Tom Zatat really made a big difference in this race. I think that, Improbable getting the 1 1/8 isn't a shock. The 1 1/4 is what we're more concerned about. Improbable being able to get. I think Tom Zatat probably wins the race if he doesn't stumble. Improbable got a perfect trip, perfect setup. Code of Honor just didn't have any pace to run into here, which is surprising considering 3 of the 5 horses did look like speed on paper. And really the one who benefited the most was Improbable, who sat in the 2 path, was able to go make a move around the turn and just put these horses away. Tom Zatat was way too far back after that stumble. Code of Honor didn't have enough to close into. And, so when I look at this race, what's it tell me? That people are going to bet Improbable in the Breeders' Cup and I'm not, and that's going to be good for my multi-race sequence. Like that's pretty much what I took away from this. It's like, okay, Tom Zatat's the total line through it, right? The other thing I think that this I take away from this is that I think Tiz the Law might be the best horse in America, period. Not the best 3-year-old in America.
Wow.
I think that might, because look, man, if this is what Improbable is doing to these horses, and I don't think he can get a 1 1/4, I think based on what I've seen from Tiz the Law and the progression that you're starting to see, I think he's got a legit shot at winning the Breeders' Cup Classic. And right now, if I had to pick someone, I think I'd probably pick Tiz the Law.
You're not alone, because one of the racing dudes did that too. I think was it Jared? Did you put Tiz the Law as his number 1 horse for the Classic as well? So that's really lofty. And you're saying that with the Travers coming up this weekend, where it's going to be his final test before the Kentucky Derby, 1 1/4. So we'll see what he can do there. Listen, I'm with you.
To be fair, I probably would have Uncle Chuck in the top 5 too. So just how big race I think the Travers, how good I think those 2 horses are. After seeing this performance this weekend, I would lean to both of those being way up there.
Yeah, by my standards, I think at this point we've learned he's just not that absolute elite. I think if we're giving grades, he's that B+ borderline A- horse that if he's not facing an A like Tom Zatat, he's got a really good chance to win, but he just isn't quite able to get over that hump. I thought you nailed it with the analysis of Improbable. I mean, they went 25 and flat at 49 and 4. I mean, they were going so slow, and it was Mr. Buff, so it's cheap speed. Yeah. And Improbable, I'll hand it to our editor Jr. because he said afterwards that he watched how Improbable won the Gold Cup, and it was staying outside in the clear, and that keeping him out of trouble and out of the dirt, the kickback. He said that's what I learned to do. And once Tom stumbled, I mean, it pretty much turned into Improbable's race because, again, slow fractions. How the hell is Code of Honor supposed to get up there? Now, I will say, Code of Honor was ahead of Tom Zatat. Tom's was last. Yep. Tom's close to get third. Code of Honor didn't. And this is a track that he loves. We know he loves Saratoga. So, I mean, are you the least bit concerned about Code of Honor? Because there's some people saying that he's just not the same horse, and maybe he's already on the downward spiral.
I mean, I've never been a huge fan of Code of Honor. So for me, it wasn't one of those things where I think it's a massive disappointment here. I think that when you see, look, his success, in the Jockey Gold Club was against Vino Rosso. That's an interesting 1 1/4 trip there. His best race was the Travers. His Travers, he got a nice setup. If he can get a good setup, I think this horse is capable of winning big races. He runs he runs buyer numbers that fit with the top tier horses, but he needs a bigger field and pace in front of him. He didn't have that. And I think that's really when you can kind of make that distinction. Even in the mile race that he ran, the Met Mile previous to this, he had a fast pace and a larger field and was able to start to make some moves at a shorter distance than he actually wants. He could get a trip in the Breeders' Cup where he gets horses to close into. I think it's kind of crazy to just say the horse is done already. I mean, this is a 4-year-old late in the season. This is when a horse should be improving. And I'm not going to take a ton away out of a 5-horse field where you had to close into, and you're against good horses. Like, I'm going to kind of give it a pass here because I never thought he was a world beater. And if you're not a world beater, this is how you're going to run in this race. You know what I mean? It just kind of is what it is. So if they go out and, 22, 47, 23, 46 in the Breeders' Cup, he can fly late and get it. And then that's kind of how I see him as a player there. But I don't think this race was set up well for him, and especially when Tom Zatat didn't break. If you had 3 horses hook up early with by my standards, Mr. Buff, Tom Zatat, and Improbable, if any of those 3 of those 4 hook up, then this race would have set up really well for him. I think their narrative would be very different here on a Monday.
Yeah, we didn't. I think this is the race, the one big race from the weekend that we can coming out. We're like, we have about the same opinions.
Yeah.
I mean, Mr. Buff's trainer even said the only reason he was there is because he was out of New York bred races to run in. They're like, screw it, take a shot.
Fifth place paycheck wasn't bad.
Yeah, there's also that. He's got that going for him. So we leave a division, the Classic, Mike, that we didn't really learn anything new out of. It just kind of more or less reaffirmed what we thought. Shitty that Tom's had that big stumble. Let's move to a division that maybe is a little more thrown up. And we're going to talk about the Breeders' Cup Distaff. We actually had 2 races this weekend that were Breeders' Cup winning urines for the Distaff. We'll start at Saratoga on Saturday. A grade 1 $500,000 personal ensign stakes. Midnight Bisou was the top-ranked thoroughbred in America coming in, male or female. She's looked lights out. She's 1-5 as the favorite. And if she was going to get beat, I don't think people were necessarily thinking it was Vexatious, but Vexatious laid it down and did not give up. And I was damn impressed with Vexatious. I was a little sad about Midnight Bisou losing, but I've got a weird opinion as to why she lost. But tell me what you thought.
Well, yeah, I mean, well, first off, Mike Smith wasn't aboard Midnight Bisou, so let's start out right there. Okay, he has been awesome on this horse. I mean, absolutely awesome. If you look at the races where this horse has not won, it's either because another jockey was on it. John Velasquez is 1 for 2 on Midnight Bisou, overseas facing Massive Security, or facing Monomoy Girl early in his career. So there's a limited amount of times that this horse has lost. Mike Smith has been on it every single time that it's won. I'm not going to take that much away from Midnight Bisou off this. Additionally, Vexatious, who ran a great race, now this is kind of weird, should have come down, but should not have come down based on precedents that Naira has already set, if that makes sense. What Vexatious did, what should have been disqualified, because if Midnight Bisou stays in her path, she might have been retired today. That's how hard Vexatious would have hit her if she stayed straight when Vexatious made that move out. And because she came out 4 paths, and Bisou went out 2 more paths. It's called herding, is what it's doing. The jockey is essentially trying to slow the momentum of the outside horse by herding it outside, because horses are pack animals. It happens all the time in Naira. They do nothing about it. This is what the result is. And to everyone who says, oh, well, it didn't cost her the race, I thought she was getting by before that happened. I didn't think she was getting by after that happened.
Right.
So, I mean, for me, and if you look at the head-on, Midnight Bisou responds to Vexatious coming out to her. She moves 2-3 paths over because she doesn't want to get hammered by that horse. So, I'm not going to say that I still think Midnight Bisou is probably the best older filly in the country. And because of those 2 reasons, I don't think you can take much away from this race either. She hasn't been as good as since she came back from Dubai, but the first back from Dubai, then the Santana, what happened down the stretch, all these different things still lead me to believe that she's still the best. But I'm also not really looking to take her at a massively short price, because we do have a lot of different players in this class now. I mean, we've talked about how deep this division is, and we're going to talk about Monomoy Girl, because everyone's saying now Monomoy Girl is definitely better than Midnight Bisou, even though Midnight Bisou was definitely better than Monomoy Girl right before that. And we had the race out west, which we're going to talk about as well. But as far as this race, I think that the most I learned was that Vexatious is a horse, man. Because she, even with the herding thing and all that jazz, she ran a heck of a race. She dug in. She wanted to win. This is back-to-back big-time buyers for this horse too. I mean, we're talking. Let me pull it up real quick.
Well, she got a 105, which is better than Midnight Bisou's career best 104, which she tied here. So it was a career best buyer from Midnight Bisou.
Yeah, and that 105 is her second 100 buyer in back-to-back races. Vexatious is on the right swing, so you got to consider her a player in this division now moving forward. I think that's what we learned the most here. Everything else, I mean, no one's really shocked by anything that happened behind it. Point of Honor, I think, was a pretty obvious horse to round out your try, and Motion to Motion and Bending Joy. No worries. Anyway, you really got to just say that Vexatious takes a step up. I don't think we learned much about Bisou because of the jockey change and what happened, and kind of take it from there.
I was waiting for you on the text chain to blame Ricardo Santana Jr. for that. I didn't think it was a picture perfect ride. It's hard for me because I have such love for Midnight Bisou, and obviously I had her singled in the pick 5, and that knocked me and a million other people out. It's hard for me to say that was a key reason why, but you brought up a great point. I mean, with Mike Smith and John Velasquez, veteran Hall of Fame guys who are used to riding a million different horses and jumping in at a moment's notice. Do we know that about Ricardo? Has he been riding her in the mornings at all? It's questions we can't really answer. And Grant, this is a damn talented rider. I mean, look at what he's been doing for Steve Asmussen for the last few years. So I'm not saying he's a bad rider. It's just you have to wonder if that jockey change to someone who just isn't familiar with her, maybe that played a little bit into it.
And that you hit the nail on the head there. It's familiarity, right? Mike Smith has ridden her in probably 15, 16, 17 races. This is the first time he's ridden her. That's a big difference. And you don't understand when a horse feels confident, when they want to push the button. Mike Smith knows all that about Midnight Bisou. He understands exactly how she wants to run, what makes her comfortable if she's not. I mean, you have all these different race scenarios that he's been in with her that he can learn from and then take that knowledge and produce the best possible Midnight Bisou. And again, no knock on Tatiana. Actually, he's a pretty good jockey. He just didn't have that opportunity to do that. He hasn't ridden her in races. And so because of that, you're seeing a different style and different prep.
The rest of the race, I mean, point of honor, if this was the time to beat Midnight Bisou, I thought this was going to be point of honor. A lot of people did. She seems like a horse that wants distance. At this point, I think she seems like a horse that maybe needs a grade 3 race, going a little longer or something like that. She still isn't that elite class. It is a smaller field, and she's the closer. It was hard for her to close too much here, but I mean, I don't know. From this field, Vexatious was amazing. Midnight Bisou ran her heart out, just didn't get the job. Didn't get the call that you and I and a lot of people were hoping for in the stretch. But there's nothing else really to take away from this field, right?
Yeah, I think point of honor is going to keep improving. I just don't think she's fully matured yet. You look at her Beyer, she keeps going up, but they're still not good enough to beat this level of horse.
We'll move on to Sunday at Del Mar. We're going to stay in the same division because we also had a Breeders' Cup winning year in for the distaff at Del Mar, the Grade 1 $250,000 Clement L. Hirsch Stakes, field of 6 fillies and mares in this race, and a favoritism on Fighting Mad, which was surprising because she was the third choice on the morning line, I believe. But Bob Baffert was having his usual stellar weekend, coast to coast, Del Mar and Saratoga. He had Improbable earlier. He gets Fighting Mad on Sunday. Pretty damn awesome. Oh, I pulled up the wrong race. Sorry. I'll put up the right race here in a second. But tell me what you thought about Fighting Mad and the Clement Hirsch.
Man, horse looked great. Was able to get an easy lead and the speed out of the gate is just it's breathtaking for these longer races. How fast Fighting Mad gets a 2-length lead. I mean, she was in the 6th hole and was 3 strides into the race. It cleared the rail. I mean, it was pretty impressive how fast the Dio got her out of the gate and how fast she was able to make the lead. Because of that, too, she didn't really face much pressure here. Ollie's Candy, who's been very forwardly placed in all of her recent races, was not able to pressure Fighting Mad. It was more of both of them comfortably running around the track, and that's exactly what they ended up doing the whole way, is run 1-2 that way. This also really validates that previous race from Fighting Mad, which kind of seemed like it was out of nowhere. So it backed up the 102 buyer from the previous race with a 100 buyer here. So nice back-to-back triple-digit numbers for Fighting Mad, who this is a late 4-year-old season again. So you can see these horses really progress and produce big-time efforts. I thought this was a really interesting race, to be honest, and then it just didn't pan out when you went to the racetrack. It really just played out as the speed was able to hold and the speed was good and no one was able to make up any type of ground late. Hard Not to Love. I mean, we've talked about this horse quite a bit. Mentally just isn't there. She didn't get to warm up for this race. She had to have her groom walk her around the track, and that's ended up getting got her into the gate in the Santa Maria as well. I mean, so man, it's just, and I don't know how to fix that. I mean, but she needs to be able to warm up or else she's not going to be able to put forth her best effort against this level of horses. So, and there's still some things to figure out with Hard Not to Love. I didn't like Hard Not to Love in this spot. So I think you can start moving past her here, but this really injects one more pace presence into that older filly division now too. I mean, Fighting Mad is going to want to be out there. We already know Ollie's Candy wants to be out there. Monomoy Girl is generally pretty forwardly placed. I mean, you have a lot of speed that's signing up for this older filly division, which could set it up for someone who's trying to come from way off the pace.
Hard Not to Love is it's bizarre because she's Wonder Godot's half sister, so she should handle routing no problem. They've routinely said, John Sheriff, the trainer, said, this is what we want. She can route. But when she sprints is when you see her best efforts. And maybe, it's because it's a quicker race or her quirks aren't able to pop up or something. I don't know. I think if you put her in the filly and mare sprint, she's as deadly as anybody. That's also assuming the Breeders' Cup has little to no fans because she's so quirky. I think that she'd just go haywire if it was a normal Breeders' Cup. This race played out like betting wise or order wise exactly how I figured. Hard Not to Love would be off the page. I thought Dog Tag would either be complete blow up winner or complete blow up loser, and we found out the dirt's really not her game. Yeah. Fighting Mad was a top pick. I'm really mad that she floated up to the 9-5 favorite because at 4-1 on the morning line, I was like, I'll take that 6 ways to Sunday, man. That's pretty great. Ollie's Candy ran a great race, but I guess if you get to the Breeders' Cup where she ran a good 4th last year, and she's the defending champ of this race. You get to the Breeders' Cup with her again, just better underneath, man, because this horse loves to fight, and it's great to see that she hasn't lost that desire to fight. But at this point, I can't bet her to win anymore. Not against this kind of a company.
Yeah, this was a pretty frustrating race for me because I, like you, I had Hard Not to Love off the board. I thought Dog Tack was a complete chuck. I actually thought Hang a Star had a shot in this race, or had a chance to run a big one. I mean, Hang a Star's beat Hard Not to Love before, beat Fighting Mad before.
Yeah.
And it was 47-1 on this day. So I ended up playing a super with Ollie's Candy on top of the next three. Fighting Mad, Hang a Star, and CC, and I would have loved to get that puppy home because that thing would have paid with that 47-1 on the back end of it. But it just wasn't to be. I thought these were the four obvious horses here, and yeah, the dog tag experiment. I think that's over. Let's head back to turf. I don't think she doesn't have that grade 1 level.
It's fine. It was worth a shot. I don't. Exactly. It's like, this is like the Kentucky Derby Trail in February. Take a shot. If it doesn't work, what happened? You found out, for sure now that that's not where this horse belongs. Sorry, go ahead.
I do think it's interesting. We've talked about 3 short fields now, and every single one, pace was the most important factor in it. I mean, you had a wire-to-wire winner. You had a horse miss the break and set up really well for Improbable. And Vixatious got a great trip, being able to sit right behind the lead and then go. I mean, to me, all 3 races, pace ended up determining the winner, or gave the horses that ended up winning a much better shot at getting into the winner's circle because of the setup they got.
I mean, that's a great segue, because if you want to talk about where the pace really, screwed things up for some people, let's go look at the sprint division, because we had the Breeders' Cup winner in Bing Crosby Stakes at Del Mar on Saturday. This was the big race there, grade 1, $250,000. Huge field. Is actually 10 drew in. McKinsey scratched because he's going to the Pat O'Brien Stakes later in the meet at the end of August. That's a Breeders' Cup winner in for the Big Ass Fans Dirt Mile. Much more sensible spot for him than 6 furlongs in the Bing Crosby. Yep. And then PR Radio Star, who scratches out, returns on Sunday and gets a big win, which I thought was pretty cool. I was like, all right, I didn't give that horse a shot in hell of winning this race.
No.
He won yesterday, so hats off to him. But man, this race drove me insane, because it seemed like there was an 8-wide wall of horses all trying to just go. And I'm like, why? Why on God's green earth are you trying to go 8 wide to get all of these horses, trying to get them home? 2 of them, I went 3 deep when we covered this on our sequence, and 2 of them were right up there. You had Desert Law, who was pushing the place, and then you had Fashionably Fast going with him, and everybody else. And then you've got Collusion Illusion trails off a little bit, and Lexitonian blew the break, which might have been about the best thing that could have possibly happened to him. So Collusion Illusion gets the win. Lexitonian comes flying to get second. That late turn of foot, really surprised me, because if you listen to the show, I gave him no shot and made fun of Mike for it. Mike had top pick for Mike and almost got the last laugh on me. So talk to me about Collusion Illusion and Lexitonian here.
I mean, I agree with you, man. I'd never have seen a race set up like that, when you have literally, it looked like 7 horses stacked around. And then if you look at the chart here, you can obviously tell 7th, it says 2 lengths back, but when you look at he's actually 10, 15 lengths back, because each one's on top of it. So Collusion Illusion, 10, 15 lengths back at the half. I mean, Lexitonian's a country mile back, maybe a football field basically back of the other horses. And they are the 1-2. And then really, again, this is the trip. Pratt takes Collusion Illusion up the rail. Lexitonian goes 8 wide, and that's the difference of a nose right there. Yeah. Let alone the little weavy job that Lexitonian did in the stretch. But man, I mean, this is what happens sometimes in these sprint races, and you have all these horses that just want to go and want the lead, and no one wants to press back, because really a 6 furlong sprint at this level is a sprint the entire time. Everyone's just sprinting, and the horses who are slower front have a little more left, and they're trying to really get there. Look, we talked about this. There's no Breeders' Cup winners in here. Like, let's be honest. This isn't a world beater field. Collusion Illusion did a great job getting a win against Older, a grade 1 win at that. So I'm interested to see how Collusion Illusion develops, because I think you could see some more development from Collusion Illusion. I think Lexitonian is a really usable horse moving forward underneath still. I talked about this horse at length on Thursday. So if you want to know why I liked him, go back, listen to the Thursday podcast. But I mean, he's been running against Engage, against Whitmore, against some very good horses. And, he's going to face some of those horses again. Do I think he's like a grade 1 Breeders' Cup winner? Probably not. But do I think that he could hit the board in those races? Yeah, he can all day. And this is a nice step forward for Lexitonian. It'll be interesting to see what he's doing next out. But Collusion Illusion, I think, probably has more upside, just because he's younger and more lightly raced, and was able to beat a grade 1 field nonetheless to be able to get the job done.
Yeah, I listen. And when I said on the show going into when we were previewing it, I said there's no Breeders' Cup winners in here unless Collusion Illusion freaked. And I wouldn't call that a freak. That was a damn good performance. And like you said, Mike, I love that he did it against Elders. But I get made fun of because I do the 3 stars of the week, and I have a bias, and I love this horse. I didn't even make him a 3rd star because he was good, but it just wasn't an eye-popping performance. I will hand it to Mark Lapp because he knew what he had with this horse, because he could have gone to the Alan Jerkins Stakes, which was run on Saturday at Saratoga, and that's restricted to 3-year-olds. And there wasn't really anybody there that was, No Parole's a standout in terms of his overall speed, but you didn't have anybody going into that race where it's like, you don't have Chancelot coming off of a huge performance in the Amsterdam. You got, Tap It to Win, who couldn't handle the Belmont distance. You've got 8 Rings, who, if he's not at Del Mar, is trash. Mischievous Alex can only win a 1 turn. You had kind of a mix here, and it's like, well, this could have been a logical spot for them to try. So I kind of want to talk about the Alan Jerkins just for a quick minute, and I'll pull up the chart here, because this is a race that the winner, Echo Town, looked fantastic. Hats off to Aaron Halterman. He loved this horse, and he got a really nice price on him. But this wasn't, he gets a 93 buyer, same as what we got for Collusion Illusion in the Lexingtonian. I don't know. If you compare the two, I guess I'd say Collusion Illusions was more impressive because it was against older males. Echo Town smoked him pretty good. These are 3-year-old sprinters that still need another season to develop. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, and look, this was another race where pace just melted. I mean, there was a ton of horses up front, and Echo Town was able to get a great trip and be able to just kind of sweep wide and won by open lengths over Tap It to Win, who I thought ran a pretty good race here and probably got back to what he's good at. Tap It to Win should be going in this 7 furlong distance. We saw him go in 2 turns and kind of fade out at the Belmont after a huge maiden breaking score. But I mean, you got Shoplifted who ran 3rd here. You got Captain Bob Tastic who ran 4th. This is one of those where you're like, all right, okay, cool. Yeah, he won the race, but let's look what else was able to actually fire here. And everyone points to No Parole, but I mean, are we sure No Parole was that good when facing all that pace pressure? I mean, there's a bunch of different things you can talk about that really burnt out that horse early, and one of the reasons why he wasn't able to be competitive in this spot. And this one, again, comes down to how the pace setup was. I mean, both of these 2 sprints that we're talking about, we're now talking about how they were set up for closers because you had multiple horses lining up on the lead. You had early splits here. I mean, they went 21-45. They didn't come home incredibly fast. I mean, the final furlong was done in 13 seconds. So that's in a 7 furlong race. He's not flying at the end. He's just passing the horses that are gasping for air. So, I'm not going to take too much out of this effort from Echo Town, except I'm probably going to bet against Echo Town next time out. It was interesting. In the Clockers reports, Shoplifted was out working Echo Town in the mornings too. So Shoplifted may be starting to come around and has had success here at Saratoga before. So Shoplifted's one of those where I don't think this was a complete fluke of a performance. I think he might be one you want to take a look at, possibly bet back next time out.
Well, and he didn't get the kind of fractions that Collusion Illusion Lexingtonian had. I mean, they went 21-4 in the Bing Crosby, 6 wide going 21-4. Here, 22-3, 45-1, a bit slower. I'll give No Parole a pass. I think, especially if he gets a little bit of a smaller race, he's a good one to look at because again, pace makes the race, right? He's got great speed. We know he can. This is the first time he's ever lost going 1 turn. Like that's how good this horse is. Like he was beating some horses, including Echo Town. So he's got a lot of talent. I'm willing to give him a slight pass on this one, but otherwise, thank God 8 Rings fell way off the board because I swear to God, if we had to hear Jared one more time get back on the 8 Rings train again, and he picks him on blinkers off, and he even knows it was a stupid pick.
Well, everyone has that horse they can't quit, man. I mean, I might have to give up on all his candy now. I've been picking that horse way too many times too. So everyone's got that one horse they keep going back to. Mischievous Alex is one of the ones I was disappointed in here. I wasn't sure. I thought this horse was going to run pretty big off that effort. And this is one thing, by the way. So one thing I think we need to mention, we talk about weights. No Parole carried 120 beating Echo Town last time. Echo Town carried 120 as well. No Parole carried 124 today. Echo Town carried 118. So even weights to a -6 advantage for Echo Town.
Well, he's got 120. Looking at the chart there, still 4 pounds. I see what you're still saying though. There's a 4 pound difference there.
Yeah, it was 118 in the form. So that's a huge difference.
Weird.
So I'm maybe it was +2 on the day. That's a huge difference though. If you think about being even weights and then having that big, especially as a sprinter facing more early pressure and going 7 furlongs. I mean that's something you have to pay attention to at this level.
All right, Mike. So we talked about all the Breeders' Cup races. Congrats to the connections who go along. There's also another big race, the Shared Belief Stakes, and this is kind of what made the Kentucky Derby. Maybe did we clear it up? Did it get muddier? How do we see what happened? Because 1,000 Words goes out and springs the upset. Cezanne is last, and he's now off the Triple Crown Trail. Baffert said today to Jay Privman that he's probably Preakness isn't even an option at this point because he couldn't handle him on the 16th. Honor AP at one point at the top of the stretch, he looked like he was going to be last, and then he suddenly figured it out and he came rallying. He gets second, but man, talk to me about this Kentucky Derby picture, because are we downgrading Honor AP because you and I love him? Or what do you think here?
I don't even know, man. I mean, this was just. This kind of caps. This is the weekend in a nutshell. How big of a mess this whole thing was, with all these different horses losing for all a bunch of plethora of reasons. First off, 1,000 Words ran great. Clearly the best effort of that horse's career. Gets a 104 buyer, able to take him wire to wire. Was slowing down a lot at the end. Like let's make sure we're clear about that too. Honor AP was probably by within another 16th of a mile, let alone 3/16 of a mile that he'd have to get in the Derby. So I don't think this changes the picture that much. Am I surprised Honor AP lost? Yes, 100%. I'm surprised the horse lost. Do I think 1,000 Words is a legitimate threat in the Derby? No, I don't think 1,000 Words is a legitimate threat in the Derby. When you have these small fields, weird things can happen. And in this case, 1,000 Words just kind of got away. Honor AP didn't get going early enough, and 1,000 Words was able to get home first. I mean, that's really all it was in my mind. I think this says a lot about Uncle Chuck, man. If you have 1,000 Words here for Baffert and you need Uncle Chuck to score points to get into the Derby, and you send him across the country to go and run in the Travers, I mean, if you can win this race with 1,000 Words, why isn't Uncle Chuck here? So I have a feeling that and I've been an Uncle Chuck guy. I have a feeling Uncle Chuck is going to be very good on Saturday, because all signs are just pointing to that horse real good.
Yeah, exactly. That's Aaron said the same thing to me after the race. He goes, it really makes you think, like, is Uncle Chuck a monster? For him to do that. So I'm sorry, he said that to me before the race. So yeah, Mike and I have been, if you're listening, Mike and I think Uncle Chuck's a monster. I think, first of all, I think Honor AP was beatable because of the distance, and also because this hasn't been that widely reported, at least before the race. Jockeys aren't exercising horses at Del Mar in the morning. And so Mike Smith and John Sheriffs, who ride and train both Honor AP and Hard Not to Love, we talked about earlier, Mike Smith hasn't been able to get aboard either one of them. And Mike even said, I could tell there was a difference with him in the race where he just was kind of lollygagging a little bit. And then you saw the weird things that Flavien Prat was doing. It kind of reminded me of the San Diego, when everybody was trying to box out, the favorite. In this case, he's riding for Baffert instead of against him, but everyone's trying to figure out what to do with Honor AP. Says Honor AP are playing games, and 1,000 Words is just going. He's fine. Yeah. Career best buyer for him. I'm with you. I'm very happy that happened, because you and I from day one have said it's Tizelaw and Honor AP at the top here. And now you're telling me we're going to get possibly double the price on Honor AP this time at the Kentucky Derby, because people are going to look at the form and say, well, he lost 1,000 Words, and they're going to bet 1,000 Words and not bet Honor AP. And I'm like, please do. Yeah. Please do.
You go right ahead and do that.
Yeah, because until we see Uncle Chuck in the Travers, there's only 2 horses I want to bet onto in the Kentucky Derby, and you're just making the price a lot nicer in that regard. Yeah,
I'm anytime there's a Baffert that I don't think can get the distance, I'm very happy that they're going to the Derby, because they're going to take money. It doesn't matter what if the name Bob Baffert is there in the form, they're taking money. This horse is going to be in the gate in the Derby. This horse is going to take money. Authentic's going to be in the gate in the Derby. Authentic is going to take money. I think it could say, like, Honor AP was already forgotten before this.
Yes,
I mean, if this is the reason why people don't bet on RIP, then thank you. Please don't. I mean, because I'm pretty excited about the idea of a cold try with Honor AP, Uncle Chuck, and Tizelaw here, and maybe a little cold super with Dr. Post and forth. I mean, I really think it is that clear in this field right now. So, man, and Uncle Chuck I'm so scared about Saturday. I'm so scared that Uncle Chuck is just gonna roll.
Yeah. We're not scared about his breeding for 10 furlongs. We're scared about him beating Tizelaw at 10 furlongs in the Travers. We'll talk about more of that on Thursday. But speaking of the Kentucky Derby, Mike, here's another thing we learned. The top jockeys around the country, they got to figure out by August 24th, do you want to ride at Del Mar and Saratoga, or do you want to ride in the Kentucky Derby? Because there was the story was first broken by Ron Flatter. I don't want to pull it up here. Jockeys will be required to be at Churchill Downs by August 24th to ride the Oaks or Derby, or they're not riding. That's it. That is flat out. Now, I'll hand it Churchill Downs. I think this is the smart decision. Yeah. But the shitty thing is because of the timing with the meets that traditionally end on Labor Day, and they're going to continue running, a couple days after the Kentucky Derby. you got to figure out what you're going to do. And this is going to get really interesting, not just from a watching perspective, but from a betting perspective, right?
Well, I mean, there's so many subplot storylines here that are going to come into effect. For instance, Irad probably not going to go ride Dr. Post, right? You stay with all of Chad Brown's turf horses. You had $1 million race the Saturday before at Saratoga. You have the Jim Dandy on closing day. You got the 4-star Dave at Saratoga. By the way,
which means he then can't ride them on like the big days, like the Derby undercard. It's not just those races; it's the whole undercard that you're missing as well.
Right, but I would argue that the purse money at Saratoga over 2 weeks is more valuable than the undercard of the Kentucky Derby, and Rosario's going to go. So, what about the jockey title? I mean, that's the other. If Irad, Jose, and Rosario all go, who's winning the jockey title? You could have a really interesting way that goes. And then, out west, I mean, obviously, I think Pratt will be going. But what about Rispoli? What about? I mean, you're going to have these jockey title discussions. It's going to be interesting to see who goes and who doesn't. I bet Irad stays at Saratoga. I bet he does not go ride Dr. Post. After the Dr. Post performance at Monmouth, I think he's got too much money riding these Chad Brown horses at Saratoga. He's just leaving on the table. I think it locks him up for another jockey's title. I mean, and then you're going to have just this depleted jockey colony against Irad Ortiz, who's probably the best jockey in America. And it could get little Luis Saez Gulfstream Parkish for a little while there, where he's winning 5 a day sometimes. So there's a lot of different betting things that are going to happen because of this. And then, Abel Cedillo may be dominating Del Mar for a little while if he doesn't get him out. I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see also who fills in the gap. I mean, Luis Contreras, who's I think a really good bug at Saratoga, especially on early speed. I think he might have a meet if he's able to get the opportunities. So you're going to have jockeys that kind of pop up. Hernandez, we talked about down at Del Mar. I mean, he could have a meet if you take a couple of these guys out, because they're not only going to get more mounts, they're going to get better mounts. And the combination of those two things could really throw things into whack. You have more likely upsets because horses don't know jockeys as well, or jockeys don't know horses as well. It's a story across all 3 tracks I think has to be looked at, because you could lose. I mean, right now Saratoga has 25 jockeys. They could lose 5 or 6 of them. You're down to 19 and you're filling 12 horse fields. There's not a lot of people not riding a horse every race. So it'll be really interesting to see how this plays out and how big of an effect this actually has in the overall colony.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. So, we'll see how things play out as they come along. It's just, God, it's just one more thing that makes COVID, the COVID horse racing season just all sorts of wacky. Going into the meet, I thought Umberto Rispoli was going to be my dark horse choice to win the Del Mar title, because Pratt's agent had said going in, we're gonna try and go where the mounts are, not necessarily stay at Del Mar. And then things changed because Del Mar said you got to stay here. But Pratt's going to go out. Like, his agent's going to make sure that he's got Derby Oaks, all the undercard mounts figured out, which again, because you have certain jockeys staying, so you had Irad Ortiz Jr. staying in New York. Well, Chad Brown's got to figure out who's going to ride for him out there. And, what if Pratt's available? Are you going to take the best West Coast turf rider to fill in for Irad Ortiz Jr.?
He's
probably
pretty good on turf. He's pretty good on turf.
Yeah, doesn't suck. So that'll be interesting. It's also, we make things interesting for Kentucky Downs because of it. Everything gets all thrown off here. So be real interesting to see. The last thing I want to talk about on the show, Mike, boy, how good are Joel Rosario and Christophe Clement? I did the math this morning because I was so impressed with how they've been riding together recently. So here's the stats. If you're watching live on the screen, you can follow along. If you're listening, well, this is why you should watch live. 103 wins from 453 starts the last 5 years. 23% winners, 50% in the money, $1.83 ROI. It's not positive, but that is damn close to positive. And then you see when they get on turf sprints. Now it's better. 26 win percentage, 67% in the money, $1.97 ROI. Look at what they're doing at the Spa, man. 11 for 27 in winners, 9 of 20 on the turf together. It's a coin toss. You're almost 50%, so it's a coin flip. Yes or no, they're going to win. In the money, 75% of the time. Look at those ROIs. I mean, at some point, you would say it's going to regress to the mean before the meet is over, but the mean's already pretty damn good when they're going to regress to it. So I don't think that there's going to be a whole lot of regression here. Why are Rosario and Clement doing so well at this meet, Mike?
Well, I don't know, man. At some point, you thought it would be over, that you thought the Clement bar had fired all its bullets. But I think that the most interesting takeaway from this, what I'm gonna expand out even a little more. Clement has 35 mounts overall. So 27 of the 35 mounts, Rosario's been up. He is 35% for the meet. So if Rosario's not up, that's a horse I'm not playing. Because Rosario is getting all of the good Clement horses right now. So if he has 2 and Rosario's on 1, don't waste a bullet on the other. That's kind of the way I've been using this data. It's pretty ridiculous at this point, though. I mean, let's be honest. There's a horse that should not have been 4-5 yesterday that was 4-5 and 1 because of the combination, because everyone is really gravitating toward embedding this. So it'll be interesting what happens to Clement horses if Rosario leaves. That's another thing with the extra 2 weeks. But this is one of the more epic runs I've ever seen from a jockey-trainer combination, not named, Velasquez and Pletcher, or Mott and Bailey, or Brown and Ortiz. I mean, this is pretty special what the Clement Rosario combination is doing, and not one that you would think going into this meet would be dominating the meet like this. I mean, 45% on grass. Are you kidding me? That's with Chad Brown raised horses. That's with
exactly.
Asmussen is yet to win a race on grass, and Clement's clicking off of 45%. I mean, that's insane.
Don't start that again.
I didn't throw it in there. He's 0 for 3 on the grass. Come on.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. Unless it's a real, just absolute monster, lights out horse like Kariba, from the Clement barn, and if Rosario is not aboard, you really have got to think twice about it. If Aaron hadn't made Kariba the top choice in the Caress Stakes Saturday, who had our Ed Ortiz Jr. aboard, I don't know that I would have really considered Kariba a threat. I ended up playing her. Had her to win in the heads up handicap team tournament that I'm in, and she got me the win because of it. But you really got to have a horse like Kariba, who on paper just looks so good, to even consider it at this point.
I didn't realize it was top pick. That was my single in the late pick 5.
Oh wow!
Everyone had that puppy then.
Yeah. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the Magic Mike Show. Thanks, everybody who joined along for Mike and I talking about Saratoga and Del Mar. Lots of action. Lots more stuff happened over the weekend that we just didn't have time to cover. You can go to racenews.com, have you covered with all the recaps and replays, including I did a special post because Sunday was Kentucky Downs preview day at Ellis Park. And so 5 stakes races, including Karatari winning the turf sprint. Karatari is owned by a good friend of mine, so I was extremely happy to see him get the win. And now it's going to Kentucky Downs to be in a Breeders' Cup winning urine for the turf sprint. So as long as he enters the field, 3 guesses as to who's the main focus on breederscup.com for that race. Sometimes it's fun doing this stuff because I can spotlight my friends' horses like that. So go to racenews.com. We have you covered all of that stuff. Did you get to watch any of the Ellis Park replays or anything like that?
So there's a tournament site, Derby Wars, that I don't play in all the time, but they have something called the King of Saratoga tournament. And I was a King of Saratoga qualifier. So you have, it's a March Madness style, 64 people bracket, but you have to win your way into it by winning one of these seats. And Ellis Park was one of those races. So I handicapped that card. I actually thought it was a really nice card that Ellis put together. Yeah. Hopefully Run Happy can sponsor some HD video next year as well as the track. Because man, it's really, when you have 5 stakes races in a row and you're watching an SD video, it kind of ticks you off. Anyway.
It's going to be real fun for the Ellis Park Derby being a Kentucky Derby prep next Sunday.
Oh, geez, man. It's like I was squinting to see if I could tell the color on the saddlecloth. It was that bad in some races.
At least there's different colors, Keeneland.
Yeah. Europe, Australia, everywhere else. Anyway,